Delighted to have you on this one-on-one with me, Sameer. Thank you very much.
Sure.
And just a quick introduction about you. So Sameer Tandon is the regional head for UPL's crop solution business in the country. So Sameer, thank you once again and welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So I'm going to jump straight in, Sameer, and start, by asking you. So do you think that the Indian agriculture is poised or moving towards being able to lend to the Sustainable Development Goals as has been outlined by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN, where they're saying that we want to end poverty and hunger by 2030? And do you think we'll be able to contribute to this goal?
Hunger and poverty, if you really look at it, both are related. So, and rightly, that's the reason rightly the FAO defined it that way, that the two biggest goals for sustainable development have been tackling hunger and poverty. And the irony is that if you look at India, specifically India, 50% of Indian population is engaged into agriculture, directly or indirectly. And most of them are engaged as farm laborers.
Right.
So the biggest poverty is within agriculture itself. So if you have to manage these two big issues of hunger and as well as poverty, you will have to attend to the agriculture at the bottom. You cannot just address it from the top and say, "Oh, we will produce more food, so we will actually just remove hunger." So it is very important that both of these simultaneously have to be addressed to. And so in India specifically, if you look at it, we have the highest arable land in the world.
Right.
And we do that agriculture on that. Greatest advantage we have is we have a sunshine throughout the year, so we can actually have 2 to 3 seasons. The difficult thing in India has been that agriculture has developed in a sense to more geographical area, has gone in spread across. We have arranged some subsidies to inorganic chemicals which have got used and things like that. But unfortunately, because the land holdings have been very small, the dependence of labor has been very high, and the yield per hectare, or you can say on a geographical unit, we are among the lowest in the world. We could compare ourselves with some underdeveloped countries, but we are the lowest. And I think that's where it is very, very important, and specifically because I work for one of the greatest agriculture companies in the world, and I feel that becomes biggest responsibility on us to work through and to look at if we have to remove hunger and poverty from the society. It is very important that we improve the productivity in agriculture. So, although we could say that we today do almost about $800 billion or $450 billion in India itself, we do food product from India, but it is again so many people which are dependent on that. So it's very, very important that we improve the productivity, we diversify the crops, because today it's too much dependence on cereals, on just grains. We are a grain producing country. It has to be that we need to migrate ourselves into agriculture. And I think as a company where we are supporting farmers, we have built a huge platforms, and it's also very important to integrate what goes as input on the field and what goes out from the field. If you only keep talking about, I will give you this input, and a farmer think, oh, he will produce it, and to do it, it will be very difficult because you have to find a right market for it. So sustainable agriculture is something which has to be practiced by everybody. And I'm proud that I work for UPL, and UPL has defined that we are going to work on sustainability in agriculture. And we're just not talking about sustainability for our plants and manufacturing processes, where I don't know if you know about it, UPL is number 1 in sustainability rated by Sustainalytics in the world. So we are the number 1 sustainable company in the world in agrochemical sector. But we define ourselves, it's not just enough to do it in manufacturing. It's very important to make agriculture sustainable. And if you start working through optimizing the inputs which go into the crop, and looking at how do you brand these products which are safer once you produce sustainably, and take it to the consumer, and remove the inefficiencies in the whole chain. So you would be able to do that more sustainably, and you would be able to get the farming population, the labor dependent on that, economically much more benefited than what they do today.
Correct.
And I think that's where it is. And if you look at it, the government as well, the Prime Minister declared it when the first time he came in. He declared as a stated mission of the government to double the farmer's income. Now, when he says double the farmer income, you are very clearly impacting everybody in the chain.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's something which is a stated goal, and I think as a country we have done well. Fortunately, I would say in the last 5-6 years we have done very well, and I think we are very clearly on the way to achieve these goals, specifically for India. At least in India, I can tell you is we would not die of hunger. So we have enough food which we produce, and we produce enough safe food to actually feed the world. Of course, we need to work on quality. We need to diversify the crop. We need to get in many things which we have to become self-reliant, like edible oil. We are still importing. So it's very important that we work on those things as well, where we do it. And there's a huge government mission there again, where they are talking about edible oil mission of Government of India, where they're supporting diversification to oilseed. And again, it's a big task to do. And I think there are many things happening. I'm very optimistic that we could really deliver this very well.
And it's very interesting you touch upon a few points, Sameer. So as someone who's driving the crop science business in India, and you are really at the forefront of increasing the crop yields, what direction are you seeing the business in the sector headed in India? You spoke about the highest arable land, but that is reducing. We're also experiencing low per hectare yields. We're seeing decreasing farm sizes. All these are very beneficial for your business. But where do you see the business in the sector headed in India in the next decade?
See, there are, as I was talking about to you, that we have become self-reliant in terms of agriculture produce in India.
Yeah.
We produce enough for us, and actually we produce surplus today in terms of grains. Now all this has happened because the farmers in India have worked very, very hard. They have worked really very hard to get us to this place. Now, very important as well is that the yields improve, because if the yields don't improve, the profitability will not go up, and that's again a very important thing which I already said, that we need to work through. We need to go there. Now, if we analyze the reasons why we could produce so high, but our yields are so poor, because we have not been able to optimize the way we do farming. We haven't been able to optimize the inputs which go into agriculture.
Right.
So now, if I have to compare us with China, okay, in terms of arable land, we are much higher arable land as compared to China. Much higher, almost 1.5 times of what China has. If you look at it, just the crop protection market, India is about $3 billion market. China is about $12 billion market.
Wow.
So you are looking at, we are 1/4 in terms of input which our farmer is giving it to the field. So you have to do it that the right inputs go. In India, if you really look at it, if you look at nutrient management in crop protection, in the field, the farmer is using urea because that comes free or comes at a very high subsidized rate.
Correct.
That's only providing nitrogen. What about other nutrients? And that's something which is very, very important, that it needs to go there. companies like us are working through. We have created platforms where we are digitally trying to integrate these things so that a farmer doesn't have to really go here, there. We can get a whole solution on a platform.
Right.
So those type of things are happening. A very important thing also is mechanization, because in India there's a lot of drudging, in drudgery, if you really say, in agriculture. That the people are working at 50 degrees centigrade, manually trying to till and do it. Now, the concept of mechanization in India got left to only tractors. That if I buy a tractor, I am mechanizing. You would be surprised to know 50% of the tractor utilization is into commercial purposes. You would have seen they doing transportation of sand, bricks, and in construction material, doing transport of people and labor as well. So you have things like that which are happening in that, but pure mechanization of the field, where you would know how to measure what is the nutrient content in the soil and then accordingly treating it. Similarly, going prophylactic in the usage of crop protection chemicals. Today what happens is, if a pest comes, we go running and spray the field. Now if pest has come, it would would have caused the damage to the crop and your yield will go down. So you need to go prophylactic and spray something so that you inhibit the pest to come. And when you go prophylactic, your usage will be much lower because you don't have to go for that high usage of chemical. So that's very important to do. Then there are a lot of stresses, lot of other things which are natural products. Now, there has to be a conscious effort, which we as a company are promoting today, of balancing these chemicals with natural products. We call it pronutiva, where we say, instead of only dosing with chemicals, can we remove the chemical load on the plant and can we bring in complemented with natural products? And there is a lot of science, and probably we are the number one company on the natural product, plant protection products in the world. And that's something, if you combine it together, you can create safer food, you can bring down the cost, because you don't have to use all the time very heavy, expensive chemicals. Plus, because you would have lesser residues of the chemicals in the final harvest, you would be able to get in a better price for it. If you go to a youngster in a metro city and talk to them and tell them that would you like to have a journal agriculture produce, or you would like to have a sustainable produce, people would surely tend to, you and me at least, will tend to buy a sustainable product. So that's something which would go through. And for this, it's very important that the farmer comes on a platform, a traceability is established, what got used, and a consumer should be able to see that this is something which he is going to eat. What was behind that? Who grew it? In what conditions it was grown? And how it has reached to him? I think this whole integration process is what is happening today. And I think companies like us will contribute a lot on to do that and bring that on forth, that we make the produce more sustainable and produce it more safer and actually take it to the consumer at the end and give him that peace of mind that what you are eating is more healthier, safer, and that way. So it's a very, very important thing. And then, as I already said, that diversifying the crop, getting more into horticulture, mechanizing the chemical spray fully. We as a company have invested into services where we say a farmer can actually, on an app or on a phone call, book a service where he doesn't have to just buy the chemical. He can come, he can actually call us, and we can send a mechanized machine which a guy can go and spray it for him. And when he sprays it, he's sitting in an enclosed place where he doesn't takes any fumes of the chemical himself. He doesn't breathe. He's in a safe environment. So you can do that. So those are the things which are going in. Which, being a leader, we are trying to push it a lot on that side where we would like to put it that mechanizing the whole crop cycle, making it spray, combining it with the natural plant protection products, natural nutrients, bringing the organic carbon back into the soil. Because when you keep dosing it with chemical, what you're doing is you are also playing with the natural, life in the soil. So it's also more important that you get those organisms back. You need to get that the natural flora and fauna of the soil maintains. So those type of things, combining it together, what we call it conutiva, that's the approach which person has to take to really make this going in. And I think the farmers also, at least the horticulture farmers I see, are adopting these practices much faster than the farmers which are into cereals. But of course, there are a lot of food companies which I know are also driving this in cereals as well. And I think these practices will see the light of the day very, very, very soon.
It's so nice to hear you say these things because I think one big challenge that companies like yours have is to be able to promote sustainable agriculture and how technology is going to help in reducing the carbon footprint of pesticides or agrochemical companies. The other important aspect is, especially as far as the Indian context goes, is the adverse climate changes, which is which probably is one of the main threats to the Indian agriculture. It leads to soil degradation, it leads to reduction in yields. I mean, globally, I was reading that there is a lot that's being done to help farmers embrace technology which can predict the vagaries of climate, in a better manner. There are many agri-tech companies that are coming in, with tools to look at, like you spoke about soil and nitrogen. How do I study the soil? What is it optimally used for? So anything that you see there in terms of adoption of technology at the farmer level to be able to predict the climate changes?
Before that, one thing I would like to correct you that usage of chemical in India is still very, very poor. It has to go up at least 4 times.
Okay.
So it is the wrong usage which has to stop. Today, what I see today in India, 43% of agriculture crops only are sprayed by a chemical. So 57% is still not being sprayed. So if you are not treating it, so it's like this: if you have an infection and if you say, "Oh, I would not have an antibiotic," of course you will die, and you will see how the journal's age span of humankind has increased in India too. We are much older today than what we were earlier, and that has happened because science has given you different treatments. You have got longevity because of you're healthier. You are the same way. The crop science also is very similar. It's a life science which you have to support, and that has to go up. So it has to go up almost 4 times, but it has to go in the right way. It has to be responsibly used, and it has to be used in a way that it doesn't leave residue, but it actually acts on what it is used for. So that's very, very important. And I think that is something which will happen in India, because if you have to improve the yield, you have to improve the input which is going in.
Absolutely.
That's very, very important. Now coming to the climate change. Now the climate change is there to stay. I think the climate will keep changing it. Our generation and generation before us both were not responsible enough to actually, we kept on devastating the jungles. We have cut all. So it is something. Of course, we can do our bit to now support it. The technologies are there in terms to do breeding in seeds, which can actually grow in adverse conditions as well. There's a lot what is happening on the seed technology side to do it. There's a lot what is happening on soil management, getting the live organisms back in the soil. There's a lot what is happening. And when these organisms come back to the soil, and if you are able to plant them back, you are able to manage the soil health much better.
Right.
Because they improve the absorption in the soil, they improve the transmission of nutrient from the soil to the plant better, and all those type of things.
Right.
So that's a lot what is happening in that science. Important as well is to also get into technology which can save water. And water is the biggest resource. Now, we all do see, and I'm not saying it is wrong, but when you see a television ad on saving water, you will see it, somebody is putting up, put off the tap, put a filter on the tap so that you get small water quantity flowing at a time and not with big pressure. All those type of things which you hear you save little water. But 70% of the fresh water consumption is in agriculture.
Wow.
Whatever we are seeing it like at the tip of iceberg. We're talking about urban consumption or household consumption or industrial consumption of water, which is very little. So it's very, very important that emphasis has to be on using water optimally in agriculture. And there are technologies available. You have drip. It's coming in a drip technology which controls the usage of the water in that. There are products like we have a patented technology, we call it super absorbent Zeba, which is made of our corn starch, which if you place it in about 4 to 5 inches below the soil level, it absorbs water and it creates a reservoir for the plant, which can store it and feed the water for some time, and it can save the crop from drought in case there is a drought. So that is one. The second is as well, lot of these inorganic fertilizers which are used, they leach into the water. Almost 30 to 40% of the fertilizer which is put in the soil leaches down into the subearthen water, and it is spoiling the water. It is spoiling all the water streams which are going nearby, and that's the reason you are seeing the water is turning alkaline. Or acidic at times, or very hard. So all these things are happening, which is because of contamination by a lot of fertilizer, lot of inorganic fertilizer, specifically urea going into the water. If you put something like what I was talking about, Zeba, in the soil, it absorbs it and it stops that leaching. It stops that nitrogen to flow into the water. And that is something which is very, very important. So it's it's a science, how you need to optimize water, how you need to optimize the use of inorganic chemicals. And I think that is very, very important to fight climate change, because you are going to do it. The other thing is, I already said mechanization. Because when you do mechanization, so I can tell you, if you manually you are going to spray a field with chemical, it takes about 2.5 to 3 hours to spray one field. If he's a very, very efficient guy, or otherwise it would be there. And in a hot sun, 50 degrees centigrade, imagine his efficiency will go down further. So if you mechanize that operation, you can do it in 6 to 7 minutes. And when you do 6 to 7 minutes, you are also going to save water by almost 1/3. You can do the spraying in 1/3 of the water. So that's uniformly used today.
Right.
So that's something which comes in. The problem in India is, as we discussed earlier rightly, that you have very, very small holdings, and a farmer will not be able to afford these equipment. And that's the reason something like us has come forward, and we said, you don't buy equipment, we'll buy the equipment and we'll put it in service for you. So these equipments are very expensive. They all cost in excess of 15 lakhs plus, and you can use them, and you have to use it only sparingly when you want to spray. You don't have to use it all the time. So all the farmers can do it. There is one very important initiative which government has also taken here, where they are supporting what they call it farmer producer organizations. They are trying to get farmers get into a group. The government is financing them. There are schemes to run this whole farmer producer organization as a company, where they can run agriculture as a business and they can do it more profitably. So there are many things. Apart from that, I think a very important thing as well is to push in agroforestry in rural side, pushing in urban forestry. I can tell you we have worked with 2 projects in Delhi, where you live.
Okay.
In Noida we have a Zeba 1 with support of some retired bureaucrats. They were trying to do and create on some abundant land, they wanted to do it. They have created a dense jungle with our technologies. Within 2 years, we could create a dense jungle there. So we've done that. We have done it a little bit in Vasant Kunj with again same group of retired IAS officers and IAS forest officers. So it's very important that a little bit from our side, this is more our social responsibility than really business, because we are not into forestry and to do that. But that's something which as a company we have supported, a lot in that side. It's been a really pleasure to see that how could you really support, and if you can support agriculture, if you can support agriculture, forestry, you could really address a large portion. I'm not saying that it is. Plus, as well, invest into technology which can bring in more resilience into the farmers and resilience in agriculture. That even if the climate is changing, you are adopting to that. Then just complaining later that I failed because the climate did not support.
But do you see them embracing, for example, this spraying, mechanization of spraying? Do you see them embracing that? They're able to see the difference in terms of, how much effort they have to put and more efficacy. Obviously, mechanization will also bring in efficacy.
Yeah, so I can tell you is, if I have to give you an example, I'll give you an example of Punjab farmers who were doing it in cotton. They used to spray about 8 to 9 cycles of chemicals in a crop cycle. So crop cycle of about 120 days. About 8 to 9, at times 10 cycles of doing it. And they used to spend almost a labor would charge you about 300 rupees per acre of a spray. Okay. So when we brought in the services there of spraying it, one is we started giving this service to farmers at 100 rupees an acre. So he saves 200 rupees per acre. Plus, what he was doing it in 8 cycles of spray, now he can actually do it with 3 to 4 cycles of spray. So his chemical consumption goes down by 50%. 50%. Of course, he starts using some organic and some natural plant products as well along with support, because you just can't eliminate all the chemical and to do it. So you are supporting it, creating a natural immunity in the crop to be able to fight small things, and that you do it. But still, you are able to reduce his overall cost, what he was using, by at least 30 to 40%. Right. And once you do that, you are also improving his yield by another 30 to 40%. And this we established it there. And once we did that, I can tell you we started about 6 years back with 5 machines, which we brought it from Japan, and then we started adopting it to India. We worked, our engineering guys worked to modify it so that it can adopt to smaller fields in India. And we did all that activity. We did with 5 machines. Today, we have more than 2,500 machines running across in India.
Fantastic.
So that tells you the success of this, where the farmers are embracing it, where we are able to get to the farmers, and we take pride that we have done this. It's just not business. It's about taking pride that you have worked and try to eliminate really drudgery from the field and made it so safe.
Yeah, this will also help the smallholder farmers, right, which is so huge in India and who don't have access to technology. So what you're basically doing is you're uplifting them, and your opening statement said it all, that since we're talking about poverty and hunger eradication, you basically have to work for the farmer to help him, to uplift him. And by doing this, you're actually helping him.
Very right, very right. So it's about, because end of the day for us, my salary gets paid by that farmer. If he is not successful, I am not. And it's very, very important that as all of us, and UPL is an Indian multinational. It's been promoted by Indians. So the promoters also had a huge inclination to make this difference to their home country. Although today, if you really see, just about 12 to 13% of the revenue comes from India for the company. but the maximum investment from the promoters and to do this is to India, because they feel that they owe it to really work for the country and to bring Indian agriculture, make it very, very competitive across the world.
Absolutely. Coming to my last question, really, and which is another favorite of mine, which is, you obviously run a very large setup here in India and it's a global company. Any skill sets that you would like to see develop to take on, this new decade, both in terms of, how we are looking at farming, what are some of, especially when we are moving towards, a more sustainable agriculture, adoption of technology. Any skill sets that you see are glaringly missing currently and what you would like to see develop and focus on?
I think the most important ones are the digital side, because I think the biggest change will come by digital revolution now, and also this pandemic also has done a bit to hasten that speed, because after the pandemic came in, it was very important. The only way to connect, and the way we are connecting today, has to be on the Zoom calls and social media. So that's something which has hastened the pace of adoption of digital means. I think the digital skills very, very important, and I think those are becoming more important than they were ever. And I think as we move, they will become more than anything else. So digital, I would say, is one of the very, very big side of it. Specifically, if I have to say, also the internet literacy, and also you would say the equipment literacy. So typically, what type of equipments you would work with in the digital world, what type of instruments you would have. So you have to understand the instruments, you would have to understand the internet, what are the powers, how to use, what to do, and that related to the social media and the informative, because when you have so much of information not available on the net, you could claim that you are very intelligent by speaking to people and talking to them. But when there are not available, you need to also look at it. How are you able to apply this information onto users? So I think internet literacy, device or instrument literacy, how do you work around those things specifically, and in agriculture world, these were missing to a great extent. So you had a huge development which happened in the other part of this. This is still industry to catch up to. There's a lot what people are trying to do there, but that is something which I feel it is. And generally, if you really ask me, the skills of problem solving, the skills of critical thinking, I think they would never go away, because as you get more complex, as you get into more and more issues, the way things are today, with the pandemic is teaching us that every day when you wake up, you can never say that yesterday I solved a problem. Today you have 4 more. So you have to constantly look at it, and I think that's very, very important to do this. And as well, commercial skills are becoming different. The cash cycles are becoming shorter, and so people in the businesses will have to look at it how best they need to work around, because if the cash cycle goes up or longer, there will be inefficiencies and they will not be able. So these are a few things which I would feel are must and very important. And I think a lot of focus from all of us would be on this. And of course, the technology focus typically on innovation would always remain, because if you don't innovate, you will die. So it's just not about inventing new products, but innovation around how do you take it to the market, what do you do, how do you relate, how do you talk to the farmer or to your customer. All those things are going to remain very, very in focus, and I think must to do. And I think we will keep investing. Specifically in our company, we are investing a lot on this side.
Great. Thank you so much, Samir. This has been excellent conversation, and thank you very much for the time. Pleasure talking to you.
Yeah. It was my pleasure as well. Thank you.